What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing my official 2022 NBA mock draft again. I'm extremely excited to do this. You know how we did it last year, especially for those who kind of watch all the draft videos. We kind of started off with the first 5 picks and the 10 picks and then the lottery picks. So again, I'm really excited to get into this. I think a lot of people have very different opinions on the draft this year, but with the first overall pick, I actually had the Houston Rockets selecting Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. He is a 7-foot power forward slash center who, honestly, I think is the best player in this draft class. I know a lot of people are saying that he might not be the best yet, and I think a lot of people are debating whether he or Jabari Smith potentially goes pick number 1, but if I'm being completely honest, I think a lot of people, these are the same people as well that were saying that the Houston Rockets made a mistake when they took Jalen Green over Evan Mobley last year, especially after seeing how insanely good Evan Mobley is. And again, I expect him to be the rookie of the year. I do think the Rockets did make a mistake. I'm not saying that Jalen Green won't be an extremely good player. I think he definitely, potentially will be. I'm just saying I think Evan Mobley would have probably been the better pick, but again, I don't think Rockets fans care too much because they know Jalen Green is going to be an absolute star. But there is really no reason to take a guard. I think with this first pick, you've already got Kevin Porter Jr. at that point guard position. Even though he's had a down year, he could still be something in the NBA. Jalen Green at that too. Again, they're not completely confident on Christian Wood potentially going forward. There's been a lot of rumors he will be getting traded in this offseason. And again, I think they not only need to fill in that center position, but as well as the power forward position, especially if they trade away Christian Wood. And Chet Holmgren, I think, is a lot like Evan Mobley is, last year. Again, he definitely is not nearly as good defensively. I think they're a lot different there. Holmgren is much more of an offensive player, but just the ability to be able to, switch on from the power forward to the center position defensively is still something really, really good. Again, he's not as good a defender as Mobley, but he still definitely has the capabilities to switch from power forward to center. Not just that, even on offense, I think he can also run power forward and center because he does have a really good mid-range, and his three-point shot is pretty decent as well. From what we've seen, again, might need to work on it, but yeah, I think whether it's NBA ready will be the discussion. I think he is. Again, I don't know about his shot, but I think he 100% is. And I think for the Rockets, they 100% need a big man. Whether that's a power forward, whether that's a center, it is just the 100% obvious decision. I'm taking Chet Holmgren with the first overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. Second overall, we have the Orlando Magic, and they're a really interesting team because I think they've got a lot of moves to make in this offseason. Because again, they've just got a lot of depth at that point guard position with Fultz, Anthony, and Suggs. I think they will move on from Fultz, and I think they will eventually start Suggs at that 1. Maybe Anthony off the bench. I know he's been absolutely insane this year, and it might be a bad take. But I'm just going to be honest, I think going down the line, Anthony is a dude that will probably come off the bench. But hey, he's surprised me. His playmaking has been very, very good. And yeah, it's proven why maybe he should be a starter in the NBA. So maybe I'm wrong. But again, they've got a lot of centers, Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter. They're kind of playing Carter at that power forward position. Rumor has it Mo Bamba's going to get a lot of interest in the offseason. I have a feeling they might trade him because they could definitely get a first, especially from a team like the Raptors who have been interested, which means Carter Jr. would go to play that center position, and then I think they would need a power forward. At least they just kind of need a forward, and Jabari Smith, who is arguably the pick number 1 in this draft, I think will go to them at 2. He's a 6'10" power forward that I think can definitely run small forward from Auburn. Again, extremely good player, 17 points per game, 7 rebounds, very, very athletic guy. I believe ESPN has him ranked at 2, and Fanspro has him ranked at 1. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of people out there that think he should go at 1. So realistically, if you're the Magic, you're getting a top caliber guy with that pick, number 2, and realistically, he could be a very good guy for them. And they have a lot to build on in this offseason. I think, again, when you get rid of Fultz and maybe you trade Mo Bamba away, this and that, if you realistically went out and got a defensive small forward that, could shoot the three ball, you could actually be looking at an interesting team. Anthony Suggs, 3-and-D dude. I guess now you would look at Jabari Smith and then Wendell Carter. Just got to fill out that bench, and maybe the Orlando Magic could be solid again. And yeah, they might be getting some picks from, for Fultz and, for Mo Bamba. So again, Jabari Smith, absolute steal. To get him at 2, again, he is a pick number 1 caliber player. And I realistically think that they'll probably take Smith either way. Like, even if they had pick 1, they might even take Smith over Holmgren just because they've got so much center depth. I guess they could take Holmgren at, 1 if they do get that and play him at the 4, maybe, and have Mo Bamba or Carter at the center position. But I think Smith, he just looks like he fits the Magic. Like, he just looks like a player the Orlando Magic should be drafting. So I definitely think they should go with Jabari Smith. And yeah, it seems like a really dude that could be a very good defender in the NBA as well. And yeah, I just think maybe fits more of the need than what Holmgren does. And yeah, so at the pick number 2, I would be taking Jabari Smith. And even if they had 1, I would maybe be taking him. But moving on now to the 3rd overall pick, we have the Detroit Pistons. And they have Paolo Banchero. And I think, I don't know if I 100% said his name right. I think every person and their dad is saying this man's name different. Again, there's always that one player in the NBA that everyone says his name different. But then when his name gets called out that way, everyone just kind of sticks to it. Again, I think, to re-say it again, Paolo Banchero. I think I've said it completely correct then. But again, he's a dude that would really, really fit, I think, this Detroit Pistons team. Another dude that could be a very good defender, in the NBA. Another athletic guy. I think he's more of a power forward / center, while Smith is more of a power forward / small forward. Again, Banchero is 6'10", 17 points per game, 8 rebounds. Just a really good player, and I think considering the Detroit Pistons look like they're going to be moving on from Jeremy Grant, who is their current power forward. There's been rumors that the Portland Trailblazers are very keen on trading for him. And again, they're going to have heaps of cap, so they're going to 100% be looking at this. Like, I think that, they're going to be looking to get some players in. I think Grant kind of fits that for them. And again, Banchero for the Pistons could very well be a dude that is pretty good defensively. Can come in 6'10", and just, again, help out Saddiq Bey. I think he's a scoring machine. And yeah, he'd be extremely good for them. I think, realistically, the top 3 of this draft is actually pretty solid. Holmgren at 1, I would say. Smith at 2. And if you're the Pistons and you have 3, I think you're pretty happy with getting Banchero at that 3rd overall pick. And yeah, they just need some forward depth. And that's why I'm kind of taking him. Like, there's a bunch of guards that some people could be taking over Banchero, but when we realistically think about it, that's the last thing the Pistons need. They have so many guards right now, so I think they're gonna stay away from that. And yeah, I think Banchero is the type of guy. Who else they would maybe pick after that? Maybe if they didn't go after Banchero, maybe a dude like AJ Griffin. A very, very solid wing. But yeah, if I'm them, I'm going with the power forward option in Banchero, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense, in my opinion. Okay, so with the 4th overall pick, it was actually really, really tough because originally I didn't have this player who I'm selecting right now by Oklahoma, but he's kind of just come out of nowhere and has been an absolute beast recently, and that's actually Jalen Durant from Memphis, who, again, was a little bit lower. I think he was definitely a lottery pick. But some didn't have him as a top 10 pick not long ago. But very, very recently, he has definitely jumped up the scouting report, with people even comparing him to Dwight Howard. Again, he's a 6'10" center that has a 7'5" wingspan and has a similar body mold to kind of Dwight Howard. And again, I think people forget how good Dwight Howard was when he first started in the NBA. Like, he was definitely an MVP candidate some seasons, and even took the Magic to the finals way back when. So I think a Jalen Durant to the Oklahoma City Thunder actually makes a lot of sense. Again, I didn't think they would draft him originally because I thought they might have just gone and taken a center or something like that. In free agency, I thought that just made the whole most amount of sense. But considering that doesn't look to be the case now because Durant's value has gone up so much now in the NBA, I just think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to actually take him with that 4th overall pick. And look, the Oklahoma City Thunder, what they're building is actually not necessarily like the modern NBA team where maybe there'd be like, who knows, a 7-foot center that can defend the interior, but then you have like a 6'9" power forward, 6'7" small forward, 6'4" shooting guard. It depends what team it is, but with their height with the point guard. But the Oklahoma City Thunder have a 6'8" point guard, I think 6'3" shooting guard, and then you've still got, SGA at that small forward position who's like 6'7" as well, who when he goes and plays a shooting guard, he's like a 6'7" shooting guard. They've got a lot of height with their guards and wings, but when it comes to their centers, they just don't. And I think that it's not necessarily bad. Like, they don't necessarily have to get some 7-foot center in, but I just really think that you can keep it a little bit smaller, and especially if you bring in a dude like Durant, who definitely has the capabilities to be a very good defender. Like, look at Dwight Howard, like how good of a defender he was, and he's being compared to, Dwight when it comes to his body frame, his athleticism, and just some of the ways he plays. I think it would make a whole lot of sense to go for him, even though he might be a little bit of a smoky. Like, some people might not necessarily have him going at 4. He's more of a dude that'd go to like 6 to 8. They took a big reach on Gideon at 100% paid off. I wouldn't see why you wouldn't do that with Durant as well. And then you've got your future point guard, your future wing in SGA, your future center now, and there's still so much building blocks they have. Lou Dort, who knows if he'll be a future starter for this team. I think he potentially will. He's been so good for them. So yeah, there's a lot to kind of go on right now, and I do think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to, take him with their 4th overall pick. With the 5th overall pick now, though, I actually have the Indiana Pacers taking Jaden Ivey. I think Jaden Ivey would actually be a really solid player for Indiana because I think he can definitely start with a dude like Tyrese Halliburton. Again, he is a 6'4" point guard, but is actually not really too good of a playmaker. Again, 3.2 assists is definitely okay. Some college players, their playmaking isn't great in college, but they explode in the NBA. Look at Garland. Garland wasn't too good of a playmaker in college, but he exploded in the NBA, and now he's one of the best playmakers in the game. Not saying that Ivy couldn't be that, but he's a 20-year-old dude that is low on that. But what he's really good at is, again, scoring. 17.5 points per game. And I believe he's a dude that could be very capable on the defensive end as well. Especially if he puts it all together. 6'4" coming into the NBA. Also averages 5 rebounds. And I think the thing is too, he could really work well with Halliburton. Because if he becomes a good defender in the NBA, the Pacers have always been a team to absolutely love their defense. And if you've got a future backcourt that has a 6'4" player and a 6'5" player that are both extremely capable defensively, then I think that would be really, really good. Not just that, when it comes to Ivy, in the NBA, he might not have to be a playmaker if he plays on the Pacers. Because again, Halliburton, who would guard the 2, would I guess be the ball handler, who is currently averaging 7.9 assists per game, basically 8 assists. Dude is really, really good. I think it makes a whole lot amount of sense to maybe take a dude like Jaden Ivey, because again, very capable scorer, a very capable defender. I think it makes a whole lot amount of sense to do this pick, and you're really building what the Pacers love, and that's defense. They've been such a defensive, team over the years, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Then I think because of this capability of having now Ivy at the 1, Halliburton at the 2, and still maybe, I don't think they'd bring back Ricky Rubio, because I think he'll leave. But if you bring back Ricky Rubio, that's even more of a bonus. Having him as a backup point to maybe mentor Halliburton and, Ivy, I would really, really like that. I think that would be really cool. But I'm not too sure if that will happen. Again, Ricky Rubio, he's been given the number 99 by the Pacers, which is just so funny because I think that even means that he's just not going to be coming back because they've just given him a random-ass number like 99, who they know no one will probably want. So yeah, he's just, I don't know, it's a really weird thing. But yeah, this even gives the capabilities to trade Malcolm Brogdon now as well, because you've got a bunch of guards there too. So yeah, it's just, I think, a really, really good match. But again, starting off with the 6th overall pick now, we actually have the Portland Trailblazers, who for the first time in quite a while will have a very, very high pick, it does look like. And there is a player that you guys have been absolutely bugging me for a team to draft high. And look, I've seen the comments, don't worry, I have seen the comments, and I think this player actually fits really, really well with the Portland Trailblazers, and that actually happens to be 6'8" forward Keegan Murray. I actually think he would be a really good player for this Trailblazers team. For those of you who don't know, pretty much the biggest needs for the Trailblazers right now are a small forward and power forward. It looks like they're going to rock with Lillard as their future point, Simons is their future 2, and it looks like they'll be bringing back Nurkic to be their future 5. I think they desperately need, a small forward and a power forward, and Keegan Murray really comes into this team. I think he would guard the power forward position naturally in the NBA. Is 6'8". Rumors he could be around the 6'9" projection right now. He is currently being compared to, a kind of taller Otto Porter and a Pascal Siakam type of player. This is because he's extremely athletic, has the very big capability of shooting a 3, while also being a very versatile defender that can definitely defend the, perimeter, and also being a pretty good rebounder here and there as well. He's got a 6'11" wingspan and actually did extremely well kind of in his season at college, averaging 23.5 points per game and 8.7 rebounds. He is a little bit older though, at 20 years age rather, and I think again he will be a really, really good player potentially in the NBA, and I think the Portland Trailblazers will have struck gold if they can potentially get Keegan Murray at that 6th overall pick, because wow, he just really, really fits this team, especially if they're going to try and revamp this whole team around Dame. Even though if they get a player like Jeremy Grant or someone like that in free agency, you could legitimately see Keegan Murray playing starter minutes if he's not starting, and just being a very solid player. So again, I think this is actually a perfect pick, and could be, one of the picks that actually ends up being one of the best out of the whole draft if something like this could potentially happen. With the 7th overall pick now, we actually do have the Sacramento Kings, who, wow, they are a very, very hard team to talk about. I do feel really bad for you Kings fans out there. Like, somehow, I know they lost Tyrese Halliburton and they brought in a legit all-star in Domantas Sabonis, and somehow they didn't win any more games. Like, how does that happen? How do you bring in an all-star caliber player and not win any more games? They definitely need to do some more restructuring over this offseason. I think they will 100% do it. I don't think they're done making moves. They obviously moved Bagley out, Hield out, etc. I think they might look to try and bring in a more dominant center, unless they completely just roll Sabonis at that center position and look for a different power forward. Maybe that's what they do. I'm not too sure what Barnes' future is going to be looking like on this team, but what I do know is they are still in desperate need, I think, for another wing to come in, especially after losing Buddy Hield. I still think you just need that dude that can guard the shooting guard and small forward position. So happens to be that the best guy available can do exactly that in AJ Griffin, who is a 6'6" guy who is, I definitely think, a very capable scorer. In this draft, he could be one of the best scorers coming into it. He can be a little bit inconsistent at some times, but when he's going, he could be one of the best shooters in this whole entire draft class. Again, his defense could honestly maybe use some work at time, but then again, at other times, it is very, very good. It just really, really is hard to kind of talk about AJ Griffin, because we don't really know what is going to be potentially what he's going to be in the NBA. And some people comparing him to Jimmy Butler because his defense can be legitimately that good. His defense can be ridiculous. He's also got good handles, and can definitely grow into maybe being a pretty good playmaker and a pretty good three-point shooter here and there. He's just one of those guys that could be an absolute demon in the NBA one day. Like, legitimately could be one of the best defenders and one of the best scorers. But on the other hand, he can sometimes be a little bit inconsistent. One thing to note, though, is he does really have a NBA built body, an NBA frame, and could actually come in and be very, very good player in the NBA. It's just, yeah, we really need to know what he's going to be and how he's going to go. I really do hope the best for this guy. I think he could be seriously one of the best players in the league, and I think if you're the Sacramento Kings, you have to take a chance on a player like AJ Griffin, because if he can come in and put up some really, really good defense, and still be a good shooter and a good scorer, he should help this team out, and I think could be a really nice young player for the Sacramento Kings. So that's just how I see it. Some people might take a different plan. No, some drafts have him as a top 5 projected player, and some barely have him in the 10. It's just really how you want to go about AJ Griffin. But at the end of the day, I've kind of chose the middle ground, and I'll be having the Sacramento Kings take him at pick 7. Alright, now with the 8th overall pick, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, and they've got definitely a lot of moves that they're going to be making, although I do think they desperately need to potentially bring in a point guard. I'm not exactly too sure if that's 100% what they're going to be doing in this draft. They went very heavily, trying to get Kyle Lowry in the last free agency. When they didn't get him, they settled on Devontae Graham, but I definitely feel like they might be looking to trade for one of those guys. So in saying this, I actually feel like they might just go best available and just see what's kind of on the board. And with who I think maybe is next best on this list is actually going to be Shaedon Sharpe, and that's who I have the Pelicans taking with the 8th overall pick. Shaedon Sharpe was legitimately ranked number 1 in kind of the world at one stage, and don't necessarily know if people had him ever going near 1, but definitely was ranked the first best player at one stage, which is pretty crazy to kind of talk about. When we talk about Shaedon Sharpe, so he definitely has a lot of really interesting things about his game. He seems to be one of those guys that has an exceptional kind of touch, and just getting to the rim just seems to be an easy job for this guy. Has a really good layup package, and again, it seems to be a really good dunker as well. He definitely is still developing his ball handling, his playmaking, and his outside shooting game, but has been progressing on them legitimately every single year and just seems to be getting better and better as a player. He's kind of got the finishing all done in the NBA. If he could legitimately just consistently hit that 3-point shot and be a good ball handler, which it looks like he could be, 100% developing right now in the NBA, I think he will be one to really, really watch out for. Now, I actually don't believe at the time making this video if he's confirmed to be going in the 2022 draft or the 2023 draft, but he is eligible for this draft, and I think he's already certified himself as a top 10 pick. I just don't know why he would be waiting for the next year, but that's already been rumored. That's something he could potentially do, and I just don't see it. If you're already going to be a top 10 pick, look, you could boost it and maybe go for a top 5 next year. But honestly, I think the way he's kind of playing right now, he should just get drafted, go do his thing. And if he gets drafted to the Pelicans team, who is playing pretty well right now, and look, if Zion gets healthy and does his thing and is back next year, you could be looking at one of the best teams in the NBA. And look, I know David Griffin, he's not going to settle with Devontae Graham as his point guard. I 100% think he is going to be looking to try and trade for one of those guys very, very soon. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe he just drafts someone. But at the same time, I think it may be more likely that he actually goes out and gets a player. And look, who knows? If Shaedon Sharpe keeps developing and potentially grows his ball handling and playmaking, he could be maybe a point guard for this team as well. CJ McCollum can definitely play point at times, maybe they just go with a double shooting guard. Teams have done it before. I don't see why they, might necessarily not look at it. So again, Shaedon Sharpe to the Pelicans with the 8th overall pick, I definitely feel like is something that could happen. And hey, I would also like to note this should be the Lakers pick right now. The Lakers should have this pick, but this was a pick that realistically they gave up for Anthony Davis. And looking back on that trade now, you got Lonzo, they ended up getting Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. I think it was pick 4 at the time, which was DeAndre Hunter, who I think got traded in some trade package. And now pick 8 and could still have future picks. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily a certain Lakers W anymore, but hey, that's a really interesting one for a different video. Now we've got at the 9th overall pick. I actually really struggled for this one because we've got the San Antonio Spurs, and just the way they operate is very different to any other NBA team. And what I'm saying by that is, you look at all the other NBA teams and a lot of them just go best available or potential what the team needs. The Spurs really look at a whole lot of different things. They look at, future prospects, like we saw when they took Primo. Like, that guy realistically was not even projected to be anywhere near where he ended up getting taken, I think at like 11 or something. But the Spurs saw he could be a good player in the future. And I think that's what they'll maybe be looking at, is some more guys that can eventually develop into being a pretty good player or a pretty good role player. With the 9th overall pick, I wouldn't actually be surprised if they looked at Benedict Mathurin, who is kind of from Arizona in his 2nd season at college, 20 years of age. Again, they don't always necessarily like to draft them super young as well. They've drafted some older players here and there too. And he's just a dude that's averaged 17.5 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, and has a very big, capability of getting better. Seems to be a dude that can consistently defend really the 1, 2, and the 3. Is a really good size for a wing as well. And also is a really, really good 3-point shooter at 37% from 3. Again, sometimes he needs to put more pressure on when he is defending, but honestly, he could be a really, really solid player. He's got a really good first step as well, and can definitely find his way getting to the ring oftenly during times when he was in college. So he's just one of those guys that I think, the Spurs will have a look at. I feel like fits the size of what the Spurs have been looking at recently. They've got a bunch of players, whether it's their point guards, shooting guards, or small forwards, that are all kind of in that 6'4" to 6'7" range. They don't really like them small, but they don't necessarily like them above average height as well. Again, I feel like the recommended small forward height would be like 6'7" or 6'8" now, but they do have a lot of those like 6'6" small forwards, and I think they could definitely trend down this way. Because you look at Mathurin, he's not exactly the tallest, but he's a big guy, and there is still a chance he could maybe grow in the NBA to maybe even being 6'7" or something like that. So I feel like, he's a guy who I think the Spurs will look at. Will they draft him? Maybe not. This is a really hard one. It's really hard to hit the nail on the coffin on who the Spurs are ever going to take, because I think in every draft they surprise someone. So look, they probably won't even draft this guy. More likely they won't. They'll probably draft some dude who was ranked 20 or something that's going to be a future star in the league somehow. Who even knows? It's just such a San Antonio Spurs thing that they like to do. Alright, with the 10th overall pick as well, we've got a guy who I think's name is one of the more interesting ones out there. I've seen a whole lot of different kind of name pronunciations of this guy, and that's actually going to be Ty Washington Jr., who I have the Washington Wizards selecting with the 10th overall pick. I'm watching scouting reports, and there's guys out here calling him Titty Washington Jr., and I'm just not going to do that. I can't call a man Titty. It's not going to happen. I'm calling him Ty, which I think is the correct way to pronounce his name anyway. It's definitely a very, very different one, but I actually do have the Wizards taking him. I think he would be absolutely perfect for them. They are going to be in desperate need for a point guard next season. They got rid of Spencer Dinwiddie, sent him to Dallas. I don't know what their next option is going to be at point guard. I would assume they're just going to draft one at this point. He's a dude that's 6'4", 6'3". Some kind of scouting reports actually have him as a different height, but kind of just more of that natural point guard type of guy. He seems to be a very, very good outside shooter in the NBA with a pretty good, shooting form. He, on the defensive end, is actually really, really good player, and that's exactly what I think the Wizards need, considering they'll be rolling out with Kristaps at the 5 next season and Kyle Kuzma at the 4. You're going to need to have some more defense here and there, and I do like Ty Washington, who seems to be a guy that can guard the perimeter and maybe guard 1 through 2 at 6'4". I think that's just what you're kind of going on. Now, I think potentially his playmaking could use a little work, but it seems like the taller point guards, some of them aren't always the greatest, playmakers. There's the odd exception like LaMelo and, Ben Simmons, but mostly the smaller point guards are like the better playmakers. We've seen how long it's taken DeJounte Murray to develop into being a really good playmaker in the league. It definitely took a couple of years, but again, Ty Washington has very, very good handles, very good shooter, very good defender. I might be having him going a little bit low at this point if I should have him going to the Pelicans, but then I also remembered that the Pelicans really tried to trade for a more veteran type of point guard last season. I think that's what they will try and do this time. And what I've just realized now, it's the Washington Wizards would have Ty Washington. I didn't even realize that. That's just a happy coincidence with their names. But I don't necessarily know if they fully need the playmaking. Bill can still be a really good playmaker in the league. Plus, they could still try and target a dude like Ricky Rubio if they wanted to add some extra playmaking off the bench. And yeah, I'm not saying that Washington won't be a good playmaker. I'm just saying that right now, it doesn't seem like he's fully there. But again, he can be a great scorer. Seems like a good three-point shooter and a good defender. He could really go a lot higher at this 10th pick. I'm kind of looking at this now and thinking I might have undersold him, and I could have him going a lot higher. I think in the next mock draft I do. But for right now, I think Jaden Ivey is a big step ahead of him. And I think, yeah, he could go at pick 8 to the Pelicans, but I think they might go in a little bit of a different direction. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for the latest NBA news and NBA content. Of course, don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys agree with my mock draft? Do you guys not? Of course, I would definitely really like to know. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my IRL/vlogging channel and my gaming channel as well, which I will all be linking in the description down below if you haven't already gone and done that. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.